Here's a revolutionary idea for all the people pleasers like me. These are the hidden minutes of your life that are getting sucked away from you when you're not looking. Man, I want jorts and a crop top and steal your girl while I'm at it. Hey, let's just get positively spifflicated. You are capable of achieving things in real life too. There's a good chance that what you really want is burnout. No, not that kind. This kind. Look at this guy. He's not getting anything done. Do you ever feel like this? Like you're just treading water just to exist?
Muffin! Swim, Muffin!
And you just get to the end of each day feeling dead. I've been there. I live there sometimes. I'm not a fan. The worst part is when you're super tired like this, your defenses just disappear. You have no patience for stupid, and stupid is everywhere. So you're more prone to say stuff that you wouldn't want to hear said back to you. Like, oh man, this person's in my way. I gotta get my chicken nuggies. Man, I hope they drop their donut face down. And then you're like, whoa, where did that come from? That was, oof. That was dark. Now, life is always going to require hard work, and you're going to be tired sometimes. But when you're so burned out that you can't replenish enough energy to take on your day, you've moved past thistles and thorns.
Good morning, Mr. Moon!
The good news is Jesus has a better way for us, and if we listen and watch his example, he has some things that can help lighten the load. But first, we need to understand why burnout is happening to so many of us. Why is this so hard to deal with? Well, part of it is there's not one simple cause. As a human, you're a collection of complex systems, and they're all interconnected. And when you have an imbalance or deficiency in any one of those areas, or let's be real, it's usually more than one, it can spill into other connected areas and start a cycle that just brings everything down together. So we're gonna need to tackle this in two parts. In this video, we're gonna talk about all the toxic stuff that's in your life that's just draining your energy and sucking the life out of you. And not just what those things are, but why they're there. Because if we don't understand why that toxic stuff is in our life, we're not gonna be able to get rid of it, right? I mean, how many of us have tried all of those self-help fixes, but nothing seems to stick? In the next video, we'll talk about all the good stuff to add into your life to get you actually living again. The first thing we need to understand is, why does burnout happen? Two words. Too much. We've got too many choices to make, too many options to choose from, too much information coming at us all at once, and too many people to please. We're overcommitted and overextended all over the place. And that invites a little anxiety monster to live in the back of our brains, who's always saying, hey, you better go, you better move fast, you better don't stop moving, or I'm gonna eat you.
Get in my belly! Come on!
A lot of those things that we're filling up our time with are not healthy things. Combine all that, and you've got a life that's filled to the brim with so much junk that you have no choice but to rush everywhere you go and hurry past everything good in your life just to survive it. We end up moving so fast that we rush right by what God has for us, the rest and the peace that he wants to give us, things he wants to say to us, the things he wants to direct us to. So what do we do about it? Well, first we need to look at the things we're choosing to give our time to and figure out what things shouldn't be there. Step one, figure out what you really need so you can start cutting out things you don't. A lot of things we think we need are really just imposters. They're just wants pretending to be needs. So we need to start by getting better at distinguishing wants from needs. And to do this, watch Jesus. If we watch what Jesus did, we see that there are three categories of need that Jesus had to deal with himself. Physical needs, food, he ate, shelter, he stayed at people's houses, clothing, he wore clothes, we're pretty sure, and rest. He picked some weird times to sleep, but he did. So then there's emotional needs. Friendship, Jesus had his 12 friends, and then he had 3 besties, Peter, James, and John. But also purpose and meaning. Jesus had a full-on mission for his life that he went after. And then there's spiritual needs, in particular connection with God to receive his love. Jesus spent a lot of time in prayer, and ways to pour out God's love and care for others. That is a need, and Jesus was doing that constantly. So those are the 3 types of things that we see Jesus doing, and if that's all Jesus needed, then it's probably all you need too. So to put this into practice, try this exercise. Write out those needs, and then write out everything that you do over the course of a day, week, month. Then draw a line from each of the things that you're doing to the need that it actually meets. How many of those things don't have a line? This will give you some clues to help you start identifying the imposters, the wants that are just pretending to be needs, and from there you can start recognizing the junk that you can kick out of your life. Another aspect of this it's easy to miss is that your day doesn't just get filled up with the activities that you choose, it gets filled up with the stuff that you've bought. A lot of the stuff that we accumulate takes time away from us because we have to manage it, maintain it, clean it, and whatever. Think about clothes, for example. The more you have, the more laundry you gotta do, the more folding, the more sorting, the more time you gotta spend picking an outfit. Think about sportswear. Advertisements have us thinking if you don't wear the latest triple Pyrex hydrofoam tights when you're out for a jog, then you're doing it wrong. Bro, I don't need the latest Under Armour Giga Chad 3000 edition that licks the sweat right off your body. Man, I want jorts and a crop top and steal your girl while I'm at it. I don't care. Hey, yo, where are my pit vipers?
On your face.
I mean, sure, there might be some chafing, but is it really worth having a whole other drawer full of special clothes that I gotta wash and sort? For some people, maybe, but that is absolutely not how I want to be spending the few short years of my life. So try that same exercise as before, except this time write out all the things you purchased recently and draw a line from each one to the need that it actually meets, if you can. And if you want to get real spicy, add a number next to each of those items that you purchased that shows how much time you're going to have to spend maintaining it. These are the hidden minutes of your life that are getting sucked away from you when you're not looking. Now, before we move on, we've got to talk about your job. Now, of course, you're going to draw the line between your job and your physical needs. I mean, you kind of have to have one to buy food and pay rent, right? But what if you have too much job? What if your job is taking more out of you than you can reasonably replenish? For example, you might have a job that pays really well, but it demands so much of your time and energy that you can't really do anything else. And at that point, it might be better to ask yourself, do I really need everything that this job is giving me so badly that it's worth draining all of my life for it? Or would it be better for me to scale back and have less job? I mean, after all, what's the point of having all kinds of money and stuff and connections if you don't have the time and energy to enjoy it or do anything meaningful with your life? Or on the other end of the spectrum, you might have a job that doesn't pay enough, and so you have to spend way more time overall working just to make ends meet. If that's the case, it might be time to think outside the box. See if there's a way to increase your value to your employer so you can have leverage to ask for more money and more time off. Or start figuring out another direction that you want to go, what education you need, what certification, what experience you need to do something else and start moving that direction. Now, this is hard stuff, and I've been on both ends of that spectrum, and it's extraordinarily difficult to make these changes, but trust me, it's way better than living your life without having any life left in you to live. If you want to go deeper into how to Marie Kondo your life like this, check out Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism. Step 2, develop boundaries with people. Now, I'm not going to go super deep into this one because I'm going to do a whole video on this at some point, but the basic principle is to learn to say no. As Warren Buffett likes to say, successful people say no to most things. Now, they're able to do that because they know who they are and what they're about. And as Cloud and Townsend put it in their book about boundaries called Boundaries, no is what separates you from me. And in order to live our lives effectively, we have to maintain a healthy amount of this kind of separation from others. And believe it or not, Jesus actually did this. He didn't do everything everybody asked him to do, and he said no to people quite a bit more than we think. Essentially, he said, I know who I am, and I know what I'm about. And that's not it. So here's a revolutionary idea for all the people pleasers like me. You are not actually obligated to do everything everybody asks you to do, even your friends and family. If we're gonna start learning to say no to things though, how do we know what things to say no to? To keep it simple for now, let's look at a couple of types of questions you can ask before saying yes to something. First, ask some critical questions about the thing they're asking you to do, like, will this thing actually lead to a good outcome for them? Like, hey, I need a study partner. It's pretty easy to see how that'd be good for you and probably for them too. Or will it leave them worse off in the end? Like, hey, let us get positively spifflicated and pitch some woo to these fine femmes about the town. Now that sounds awesome, but it's probably going to lead to somebody adding to or subtracting from the population. So maybe don't. Another question to ask, do they genuinely need your time and attention? Like, hey, my car broke down. Or is their problem a consequence of their own poor planning and judgment? Like, hey, I was out too late pitching woo at the ladies again. Can you cover my shift? In that type of situation, it's probably better for them to experience those consequences for the sake of their own growth and maturity. But we'll talk about that another time. Next, ask what your own motivations are for wanting to say yes. Is this the best use of your time, or are you just FOMOing out? Another question, Are you doing this to love the other person without requiring anything in return? Or are you saying yes because you're afraid of losing their love if you don't? Which, by the way, if that's what's happening in your relationship, then what you're getting from that person is not love. Above all, when deciding what to say yes to and what to say no to, let love be your guide. Look again at the example of Jesus. He only said yes to things that would bring about the best possible outcome in the end for the person asking. That is the definition of love. Say yes to those things and no to just about everything else, and your life will clear up faster than a zit. Step 3, dopamine detox. There's so many things fighting for our attention, and there's some sneaky ones trying to entice us to give it to them by offering us morsels of dopamine and adrenaline rushes. These types of things are generally unhealthy because they can be addictive, they're not really productive, and they're not meaningful, so they just steal time away from us. As a result, when we do have good, fruitful things to do, we don't have any time or energy left over to do them. So what types of things are doing this to us? Well, first, your phone. Get off of it. Basically every app on there, and in particular the entertainment apps like social media, dating apps, news outlets. Let's be real, those are entertainment at this point. They're all designed to dominate your attention for as long as possible by turning you into a little mouse stuck in a digital maze, sniffing around for the next little crumb of serotonin. Which, by the way, also keeps your senses dulled just enough to stop you from noticing that you haven't seen an exit to the maze in like 3 hours. And then if you do get out, they hit you with the notifications to keep you checking back in and getting lost there as often as possible. If you check your phone's digital well-being app, you'll probably find a lot of hours there that you spent unintentionally as you scrolled through content, just looking for something to satisfy that need for a fix. But think about how much more you could relax and live life at a manageable pace if you took that time and spent it on fruitful things instead. Next up on the chopping block, video games. They're designed to give you that same endorphin hit by making you feel a sense of validation and accomplishment for things that sort of didn't happen. I mean, did you really land that 720 fakey laser to nasty kickflip, or was that pixel Tony Hawk in there? Problem is, all those goals that video games have you chasing after to give your life a sense of purpose and meaning, and all those achievements that you win in there, completely evaporate as soon as you turn your TV off. They're meaningless. Now, don't get me wrong, I played my fair share of video games. I cried when Noble 6 died. We all did. But let's be real, we can do way better than that. You are capable of achieving things in real life too. Last thing, get off Netflix. Now, everybody agrees Red Notice was aggressively average, but we all still watched it and kind of liked it. Why? Because Netflix is doing the same thing. When you're watching Netflix, Netflix is watching you. They track which parts of their shows and movies get watched and rewound the most. Then they take that data and use it to create their movies and TV, all to keep you stuck there for as long as possible, binging on simple endorphin triggers. Now, there's no judgment here. None of these forms of entertainment are inherently bad in moderation, but let's be honest. At this point, our lives are so saturated with them that we've forgotten what moderation looks like. So for most of us, we're going to need some time away from all these things, your phones, video games, Apple TV, Hulu, whatever, detoxing from them in order to gain some perspective on what healthy moderation looks like. Now, I understand this is exceptionally difficult. These things can be addictive, but this is for you. Your physical health, your mental health, your ability to live life with peace, and actually being able to complete the good works that God has given you to do. Okay, now that we've identified the extra junk in our lives that's draining us, we need to understand why these unhealthy things are here in the first place. Otherwise, as we've all experienced, just like a drunk uncle, no matter how hard you try to kick them out, they just keep coming right back. Now, the shortest explanation for why all that junk is there is because we're hungry. And I'm not talking cheesecake and Big Macs, I'm talking deep in your soul. We want things and we need things, and when those needs go unmet, it generates a hunger in us, and it's like flipping on a vacuum cleaner inside of our soul. It just starts sucking up anything that looks like it might satisfy it, even if it's something that we know isn't good for us. You ever notice how your IQ drops significantly when you're hungry? Same thing happens when your deepest hungers aren't filled. So when you're filling your life with too many commitments, purchases, games, and doom scrolling, there's a good chance that what you really want is purpose, meaning, security, and love. And of course, there's only one place that we can go to have those deepest hungers filled. Jesus is not just an example to watch from far away and emulate just to have a better life for ourselves. He's a person, and he's here with you right now, ready to provide you with every spiritual blessing and for every need that you have. That's it for this one. In the next video, we'll go into how you can receive the fullness of God's life and get filled up with things that actually satisfy your true needs so that you can live. But for now, I want to leave you with something that you can put into action in the meantime. In order to keep your life from filling up with toxic junk, you need a mission. One of the reasons Jesus was able to keep from filling up his life with stuff he didn't need was because he knew his mission. He knew what he had to do, and he knew where he was headed. And because of that, he knew what would help him to reach his destination and what things would get in the way. So we need to figure out what your specific mission is. God has prepared good works for you. If you don't know your mission, try this. Do the same exercise that we did before, except this time list out all of your gifts, your talents, your resources, everything God's given you. Then list out all the needs that you see in the world around you, in your community, in your family, in the world at large. And just think about what you would want to see become better. How would you like the world to change? Then connect those two things together and look for places where they meet. Of those places where your gifts and resources meet the needs of the world around you, which ones get you the most excited? And that's not the be-all end-all of answers. God can give you direction for your life by whatever means he chooses. And our lives will only be effective and impactful if we're following his direction. But if you've got nothing else to go off of, it's a pretty good place to start. All right, that's all the time we've got for this one. If you've got any other questions about life and how to live it, just leave them down in the comments and we'll take a look. Definitely don't hit that subscribe button, because if you do that, then you might receive, more thought-provoking and encouraging content, and you don't want that. I know you. You don't. That's not you. All right, stay weird, my hungus. See you next time. Peace. Okay, time to put on some jorts and a crop top and go running around my neighborhood. This bunghole, I hate running. What are you looking at? Trying to catch some side boob? What are you doing? Jesus is watching.